Welcome to the Financial Coaches Podcast, where we talk about how to build your practice from startup to scale up while being the kind of coach your clients crave. Finally, a podcast for financial coaches. Here are your hosts, Maria Casillas and Cody Sizemore.
Hello and welcome back to the Financial Coaches Podcast. My name is Cody Sizemore and I'm joined here by my lovely co-host Maria Casillas. And today we have a pretty cool topic to talk about, something that we have never talked about on this show before, but something that had happened to me personally recently, and man, oh man, was it an experience. And it was actually the first time that I had to deal with this. So I'm excited to jump into this because I think it's a really important topic and something that you guys should know about and should be prepared for as well coming up in the future. But before we get into any of that, we want to first and foremost just say, hey, we love every single person who takes any time out of their day to listen to us ramble on this show week in and week out. But we do know that there are some of you who listen to us every week. And we just want to say, give you guys like a special shout out. You know, you guys are what we call our every weekers. You guys are the lifeblood of this show. You know, you guys keep it going. We see the listener counts going up every single week, which is amazing to see. We've been at this for a little bit over 2 years, I think now. And it's just been really awesome to see the audience grow and to see these, people like you continue to support this show and also get the value from this show too. So, you're the reason why we do this, and we just want to say thank you for that. So thank you to all of the every weekers out there. And we're looking forward to this week just for you. And aside from that, we also want to remind you about our ever-growing community as well. And we're, of course, talking about our Facebook group, which is the Financial Coaches Community, Buy New Money Habits on Facebook. So you can just type that into the search bar. Join the group. It's free to join. Ask questions. You'll get, new episode updates there. Different events that we throw on a weekly to monthly basis. And, you can even ask questions that you want us to discuss on this show as well and connect with us directly there too. So, free to join. We'd love to see you join that. And lastly, if you haven't listened in a while, few months back actually now, we actually launched a online course. And it's for anyone who wants to get started as a financial coach. It's for those people who are aspiring coaches, you're thinking about getting things up and running, or it's for the people who have gotten things up and running, but they're having a little bit of a hard time getting their first client and or their next client. So we will be putting a link to that course into the description below in the episode notes. And the course is simply just called Getting Started as a Financial Coach. It's everything that you need to know about getting your first and or next client. So you can take your business and your practice to the next level and make the impact that you truly want to make. So with all that being said, Maria, how you feeling today?
Pretty good. Still battling allergies. So, voice is a little raspy, but I appreciate you bringing it in for us today, Cody. Thank you.
Not a problem.
I'm excited to talk today because I know that what's going on is something that has been going on for a little bit with you. And it's even something that we've talked about outside of the show. And so I think it's really, really great that you're going to share this with our audience today, because like you said at the top of the episode, we know that this is probably something that if it hasn't yet happened with our clients or with the coaches who are listening, that it probably will sometime during their practice. So without further ado, jump right in and tell them what it is we're talking about.
Yeah. So the topic of discussion today is refund policies and holding your ground with them. So I don't know. What do you think makes sense? Do you think that I should just tell like what happened, like a play-by-play and like all that kind of stuff? I think that makes the most sense, right?
I think that would be a good place to start.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So I'll start from the beginning. So way back when, I'm just kidding, just like a couple of weeks ago, I had met with a couple and had a really, really amazing call with them. It was a consultation call, amazing call. They ended up signing up for my group program. and that group program actually started about a month ago now. And they were the first couple to actually sign up for this group program. So when I told them that that they were signing up, I said, hey, like, here's our target date of when I would love to launch this program. But it won't be any later than X date. So they knew that going in. They probably had like a 6-week waiting period from sign up to actually start. And they knew that. So everything was good. That 6 weeks went by. We actually started the group basically a day before I said like the latest that we'd actually start. So, I kept my word there, like everything was good. And, up and throughout those 6 weeks, I would check in with them probably every 2 weeks or so and just give them like a little something, like a free resource or a video or, an update on how things were going, all that kind of stuff. And, sometimes they'd respond and they'd say thank you. Sometimes they wouldn't respond. There was no sign of like anything going sideways at all. But then 2 days before this group program had started up, and I had busted my butt to get things in place for that and getting people signed up for that because I knew that they were waiting. But 2 days before this group program started, I received a message from them and they said, hey, we have been really thinking about this and we're really nervous about this. We've had a ton of anxiety about this and we don't think it makes sense for us to continue. So we want to back out of the program and we would love to have our deposit back, essentially. Which, by the way, was $3,500.
Okay.
And, so I was like, whoa. Like I finally got everything in place. I busted my butt to get everything in place. And now you're telling me that you want to back out. And, I had enough people in the group that like it made sense for me to keep it going. But if I were to give that money back, then the amount that I'd be making per call in that group would actually be less than I would be making on a amount per call for one-on-one. So that kind of upset me because like the whole point of the group is to, make more for your time invested into it kind of thing, at least on, the coach's end, financially speaking. Right. So it's important to know that, with the way that I handle my practice and handle my business, I do offer a 100% money back guarantee. Now, what that looks like is that if someone goes through the program and they do what they're supposed to do and they do what they're asked to do and like they follow through and they take it seriously, if after all of that, they look back and they say, hey, this was a mistake. We shouldn't have done this. Then I will give them their money back. Right. And it has to be a mutually beneficial thing. Like they feel that way. And I also think that they actually did what was required kind of thing. And I communicated that with them and they were aware of that and they signed, the agreement and all these different types of things. Everything was kosher. So I had to hop on a call with them and basically just talk through things. And that call was very intense. And essentially, the way that call went was, I basically just said, hey, like, why don't you just tell me what's going on and how you're feeling? And, they went through things, they talked me through it. And they, it really just came down to fear. As we've discussed several times on this podcast, like most of my frustrations with clients or potential clients that I have, whether they sign up or not, is that, sometimes they back out of things or they don't move forward with things because of fear. Right. And that's all this was. It was just a fear-based emotion thing. I kind of like heard their side of the story. I gave them my perspective and, told them like, that I appreciate them telling me this, that I understand how they feel, but here's the reality of what this is going to do. Here's the process, all of this kind of stuff. And then I hit them with the truth. And the truth was this. I said, I do offer a money back guarantee, and I'm happy to do that. But what I don't offer is a refund. And those are very two different things. Because with the money back guarantee, there is essentially no risk. You have everything to gain from this and nothing to lose. And if you do get the money back, then that's probably on me. And I'm okay with it being on me. But I don't offer refunds because if that was the case, if you were to ask for a refund and you don't go through this, then it's a massive disservice because where you're at currently is destroying your finances and your relationship and all these different types of things. So I'm not going to aid in that kind of path. Like I want you to at least give yourself a shot kind of thing. So I think it's a big disservice to give people refunds without them even giving themselves a shot. And that's why I do that. And I explained that to them. And of course, you could probably imagine that frustrated them.
I'm sure.
And
First, I want to say I love the distinction that you make. I think you made that very. I don't want to say you dumbed it down, but you made it very easy for anybody to understand the distinction between a refund and a money back guarantee. So thank you for that. I also am curious, though. You said that when that conversation was intense. That was the description that you used. I'm curious, at what point did it become intense? Was it intense right here at the moment where you explained that to them? Was it even before you picked up the phone because of all of the emotions that were going through in your mind before you picked up that phone? Where would you say it actually turned intense for you?
I would say that it was tense from the get-go. Even when I got the first message from them, because of course I was stressed out. I was frustrated. I was kind of angry as well. But, I was level-headed, and of course they were also dealing with their own emotions too. So when we hopped on the phone, like it wasn't like a, hey, how's everything going kind of thing. Like it was definitely tense, right?
You anticipated it, and so did they.
Yes. But then once that part of the conversation got unpacked, then it became intense. To where,
perfect.
we weren't screaming at each other, but the level of tenseness definitely went up kind of thing.
So you mentioned that did you say the word frustrated? I don't think you said it angered them, but you said they were frustrated by your statement.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit more about that.
They were frustrated. They said that they felt like they were, kind of being forced into something and like all these different types of things. And I'm like, it's not being forced because all I'm telling you is that you just need to give yourself a shot. That's all. And if it doesn't work out, then I'll gladly give it back. That's fine.
So were they more worried about the time investment or the money investment? What do they tell you? What do you think is the truth?
It was the money. It was the money investment.
Okay. Yeah. So you were able to turn that around for them and let them know that they would get their money back as long as they invested their time and did not feel it was their value. Okay.
As long as they gave themselves a shot. That's all I'm asking. Give yourself a chance.
So if it's true that it wasn't an issue of time for them, what about this whole thing frustrated them the most, you think?
What do you mean by that?
Well, I figure if I'm worried that I gave you $3,500 and I need the $3,500 back, but I'm willing to put in the time, and I know that if I put in the time and I don't get out of it what I think I need to get out of it, that you're going to turn around and give me my $3,500 back, then if I'm not willing to do that, then it really is not wanting to invest the time, not the money. So what I'm wondering is, once you explained all that to them, if they were frustrated, is it possible that they really just didn't want to put in the time? Now I know how the story ends, or at least what it is right now.
I think it's possible, but I think it still comes back to the money because the main thing for them was security and also scarcity as well.
Okay.
They when they initially signed up, they had like six grand in savings. So then their savings went down to, around 3,000 or so. And, one of them doesn't work. The other one does. And they were just like, we want 1 month of income in our savings. That was super important to them. So because of that, that went away, right?
Mm.
So they viewed it as like a instability kind of thing, right?
So do you think
But
because they had 6 weeks to stew on it, that's what made the difference? Because
I think
that difference wasn't there, right? I mean, it was
right.
the same circumstance when they gave you the money. They knew that was what was going to happen.
Yeah. It may have worked out differently if we would have gotten started right away. But I think that time, it definitely amplified those feelings for sure.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Go on.
So,
I want to hear how this ends. I want them to hear how it ends.
Yeah. So long story short, I basically told him, I said, listen, you basically have two options here. You can either go through this program and, do what you said we're going to do and, get the most out of it. Or at worst case scenario, you go through it, you get some new tools, you learn more about yourself, you get into a better financial situation, and then you get your money back. That's the worst case scenario. So that's one option. Or the other option is that you can go to your bank and dispute the charge, which you're more than welcome to do. But I will not willingly give this back to you because I don't think that it's serving you. So you can do that, but I would venture to say that it'd probably be difficult for the bank to say that it was a fraudulent charge if it was that amount of money and you're going to them 6 weeks later. I don't know how that's going to work, but that's up to you. You can do whatever you want to do. And I gave them the day to think about it. And then we touched base the next day. And eventually what they decided to do was to move forward. Now, I did restructure with them in some way because it was a group program. And what I didn't want was that kind of energy being brought to the group. Did not want that. So I did restructure it and I put them into a one-on-one instead, which I was okay with because I think that I just thought like this is going to be a better experience for the group, which by the way, the group is up and running and it's freaking fantastic. And it's also going to allow me to invest more into them directly as well. Right. So I did restructure for them to do that. Now, we have since started coaching and I've had 2 official meetings with them so far. And, obviously like a check-in as well. And what I will say is that I actually met with them this morning and things are going really, really well. Really well.
How
really
so?
well. Well, today we did their financial audit with them. And we had found that basically on a month-to-month basis, they were going in the hole about $2,500 a month. That's what was happening due to spending habits and, choices and decisions and all these different types of things. And then we kind of talked through things and we got things into a different space. And we worked them into being into a surplus of a little bit over $500. And that's just the starting surplus because I have a few other ideas that we can even make that increase even more, which I'll be sharing with them over the next couple of meetings. So, it's a $3,000 or no,
monthly
it
swing.
was a $3,500 turnaround per month, which is ironic because that's also how much they put in for the actual program kind of thing. So, they're seeing that impact in just 1 month.
Yeah,
already.
That's awesome.
Right. So that was really good. And the dynamic between the two of us, now that we've been meeting, has actually been very, very good as well. They're saying things like, thank you so much. We appreciate it. This is great. Like all this kinds of stuff. Right. And even when I'm going to back up a little bit. Remember how I said that I gave them a day to really think about what they wanted to do for that final decision after that conversation? When they came back that next day and they gave me that final decision and they decided that they did want to move forward, what they said to me was, we really appreciate you taking time to talk this through with us and we appreciate you not giving up on us.
Mm-hmm.
Which is huge.
Mm-hmm.
It's huge.
Mm-hmm.
So
I thought you were gonna say that they said, "Well, we're gonna do this, jerk," because we feel like you're forcing us to do it. And then there was this giant turnaround. So that's actually really cool that just 24 hours later, they actually simmered down a little bit and were able to see what you could see on the outside, and that you believed in them enough to keep going. And that just proves it was fear based.
Exactly. So I think that this is a really good example to talk about, because we had to go through that really, really difficult conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And it was not comfortable for me.
Mm-hmm.
I did not enjoy that conversation. I hopped off that call. I walked out of my office and I looked at my wife and I was like, oh my God, I'm so stressed out right now. I hated it, you know, but I knew that in my heart, I was doing the right thing. I really believe that I was doing the right thing. And to have them turn around and say that 24 hours later, and then fast forward, 4 weeks to our meeting today, to where they're starting to see things actually turn around and they're starting to get that traction and that hope and that confidence back. I just think it's really important that we don't shy away from those hard conversations, because sometimes the most beautiful things can come from the hardest experiences that we need to go through as people, as coaches, as guiders, whatever you want to call us. But I just think that that's really, really important, because I could have very easily just said, man, this sucks. I don't want to have that conversation. I don't want to have to, put that on them. I don't want to even have to deal with that, because it's going to require a lot of energy and, mental capacity on my end. I'm just going to give them back the money, because I don't want them to be pissed. I don't want them to, go off and tell other people and, smear my name and all these different types of things. I'm just going to play it safe. And if that was the case, then I'd be out $3,500. They still would not have a good experience with me, and they'd still be stuck. But I chose the hard route. And because of that, it's paying off in a really beautiful way for not just me, but for them as well, which is the whole freaking point.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first I want to say that had you gone that route, it would have been out of fear. And so it would have just been replacing their fear with yours. And that wouldn't have served anybody. So I think that's really great. I'm curious to know, and then I have a couple things to say. I'm curious to know, what are the chances that they're going to ask you for their money back?
Oh, it's still completely on the table. It's still completely on the table.
But what do you think are the chances that they will?
Yeah. I would say that based off of how things are going so far, and also how I just know that people grow through my program, I think the chances are relatively low.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah.
So what I want to point out for our listeners is a couple things. I want to say that the reason that you were able to stick to your guns, even though it was super uncomfortable and you knew that doing so or not doing so would actually be out of fear, was because you had your policy in place. So that's really, really important. If you don't know what your policy is, it's going to be really hard to stick to it. It's going to be really hard to defend it when somebody starts to kind of wane with that. So anyone who's listening today, if you have not yet put one of those in place, get it in place. Do what Cody did and get it in writing, so that when they come back to you and say, you're like, this is what we agreed to. And it's a lot easier to stick to that, because they actually sign their name to it at that point. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really important. And as you were talking, I really liked what you said about, if I wouldn't have done this, I would have also been operating out of fear, which is basically me matching their energy and creating an outcome that no one's happy with, and that, no one gets anything from. There's no value from that kind of thing. But I think that because I started operating not from a place of fear, but instead a place of courage, because the thing about courage is like, it's still scary, but you just push through that. Like that's what courage is, right? And because I operated with courage, they then met me where my energy was at. And then they stepped into courage as well and then moved forward. And that's what I think. I mean, I honestly believe that we are going to complete this program and we're going to look back at that conversation and we're going to laugh about it. I really, really believe it. And I think that some of the best relationships, and this doesn't just go from coach to client. We're talking like marriages, friendships, whatever. I think that the best relationships they require going through trial together and then overcoming that together. And I think that this is a perfect example. We went through that trial together. And that's why I think that by the end of this coaching relationship, that it's actually going to be a really awesome just relationship in general between the three of us, person to person kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's going to be like a flashpoint, like you said, where they see that that's where things change for them, not just for the relationship between the two of you, but for the relationship between the two of them, their relationship with money, and their overall trajectory financially.
Yep.
Well done, Cody.
Yeah, thanks. It was a very stressful couple of days when that happened.
I remember.
I've been wanting to talk about it on this show for a while, but we had other things to talk about. But if there's one thing that I want, you guys to kind of take away from this conversation is just choose the hard route. Live into that and live into that with courage. You'll be happy that you did. Now, I'm not going to guarantee that it always works out for you, but you'll be happy that you did because you lived into your conviction. And that's what I think is the most important thing, So do the scary thing, do what you know is right, and don't ever look back. And I think that you'll be surprised as to what happens. So.
Yeah, I agree. And for those of you who haven't picked up on it yet, Cody was walking through a lot of that with support on the other side. And I think that that's another thing I just want to remind you, that if you have these things to go through, you don't have to go through them alone. That's what we're here for. That's what the group is there for. We want you to lean on each other because there's no sense in being on an island. Just because you have your own business does not mean that you have to be in business alone. So we encourage you one more time to jump into that Facebook group. I'm about to absolutely butcher it because I always do, but I think it is the financial coaches.
I got you.
See if I can get through without coughing, right? The financial coaches community by New Money Habits. All right. So we encourage you to jump in over there. Let us know if you need just a little extra support, because whether it's Cody, myself, or anybody else in the group, sometimes it's just a little phone call or a quick text saying, hey, I'm running through this. Can you keep me in your thoughts? And we'll make sure that we do that for you. All right, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in for this week. And we look forward to another week next week for another episode of the Financial Coaches Podcast. We'll see you then. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Financial Coaches Podcast, brought to you by New Money Habits and Sizemore Financial Coaching. Submit your questions to our hosts by emailing podcast@newmoneyhabits.com. Be sure to subscribe to be notified of future episodes and join our growing group of like-minded coaches on Facebook. And until next time, happy coaching. Music provided by Summer School.